Hey there, welcome. My name is Lou Diamond, speaker, consultant, podcaster, and author of Speak Easy. You know, in the original Speak Easies, it was real important to stay very quiet so the police couldn't hear where your clandestine special nightclub was. Well, here at this Speak Easy, we encourage conversations. You see, I believe that every connection begins with a great conversation. In fact, at this establishment and in my book, Speak Easy, I put together the tips, tricks, techniques, blends, mixtures, and concoctions that you need to make more of your conversations great. Whether you're a professional looking to grow your business, a leader looking to connect to your people, or an individual looking to grow your own personal connections, the lessons you'll learn in Speak Easy will help you connect, engage, and win in all of your conversations.
Well, off the top of my head, I'd say you're looking at a Boski, a Jim Brown, a Miss Daisy, two Jethros, and a Leon Spinks, not to mention the biggest Ella Fitzgerald ever. And, of course, you'll need Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
Would you like to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Speak Easy and master connector Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on this planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another spectacular episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. We are continuing our amazing series of what we're calling the Speak Easy Mashup, where we're connecting you with some of the most amazing authors out there that have put together some incredible messages that kind of correlate with Speak Easy a little bit, which is kind of cool. Today, we have a communication and relatability expert, media personality, and speaker. She is Match.com's chief dating expert. She's the author of Relatable, How to Connect with Anyone, Anywhere, even if it scares you. So to get ready for a fun mashup episode with the author of Relatable, Thrive Loud listeners, I bring you the Rachel DeAlto. Rachel, how are you today?
I was like, I'm glad it's the, because we can't handle more than one.
No. I know you can't handle more than one. Listeners need to know Rachel has been moving, has been relocating, has had probably the busiest 4 months anyone could possibly have. And I am just thrilled and honored to have her here today to chat with me and you, the listener, so you could take it all in. Rachel, how you doing? You catching up? You getting some oxygen?
I am. I know we've talked a couple times. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even see straight. But I have to say, my nesting time is done. I'm in my new office space, which is awesome. The house stuff is done, and I can finally, I feel like, refocus on the rest of my life, because you know how it is. You've been.
I know
Yes.
how it all is. What I want to do is, you've been on the show before. You came on when your book came out. We actually, yes. I think we dropped it on the date of your when your book came out, which was pretty amazing. So what I want to do is bring our listeners up to speed a little bit. So if you could share with the listeners a little bit about what Relatable is all about.
Yeah. And it was so awesome to talk with you the last time I was on Thrive Loud. And Relatable to me is really the foundation of relationship building and connection building. Because I think you can have a connection, but where does it go from there? And really building it beyond that is the art of being relatable. And to me, it's something different than likable. It's a little bit stepping up from there. And it's, how do I invest my energy in other people? How do I put myself out there so people want to invest their energy in me? And so it's really a framework about building those connections, even if it might scare you, which it does, because social anxiety is real and everybody has a little bit of awkward sometimes.
Sometimes. I would have, a lot of people have a lot of awkwardness a lot of times. And actually that's what I want to dive into. So there are some incredible lessons in your book about how kind of you need to be in certain circumstances, how to make yourself more approachable, how to be able to connect with anyone, which I connect completely with, because my means of having to connect has to do with having a conversation.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about, maybe you could share with the listeners, if you could, some of the key things you think about when it comes to actually having conversations as it relates to being relatable.
Yeah. And, I love, and we have such synergy. And we've actually said that since the moment that we started talking and met back at that NSA conference oh my gosh, it was only a year ago. It feels like it's been a while. But I think about conversations, not just in the words that we speak, but how we approach them. So are we approaching them from a place where I'm actually going to show some of my quirks? Am I going to show up as my whole self? And, I think authenticity is a bit of a buzzword, but we really do have so many different versions of ourselves that could show up as authentic versions. And also, how am I showing up in service to the other person? How am I communicating in a way that they feel seen and heard, that they feel like I'm on, their page, and I care about who they are. And so it's a lot to me in terms of relatability is thinking about how I show up before I even speak the words. And then we speak easy after that.
Yeah, I love that. Nicely done, by the way. So actually, a lot of Speak Easy is how you need to be before, during, and after conversation, and a lot of that prep work you need to do. Look, there's the authentic component to who we are and making sure we unleash it in the moment to become relatable to another. Is there preparation on being relatable? Do you have to work on things before you connect with someone else?
I do. I think you do. I think there's absolutely some prep work, and it's not necessarily, you're not, sitting there scripting things out, but you are thinking about how can I be more self-aware? How can I be more confident in who I am? And that's the biggest things that I think is a massive part of the prep work is oftentimes we show up to these situations and we're not relatable because we think that we have to be perfect. We think that we have to be another type of human being in order for that person to connect with us. When the fact of the matter is, if we just kind of embraced who we are, and then allow the chips to fall, you're going to find your people.
Do you believe that when the Relatable book got out into the universe and everyone was learning how to be relatable, that you were finding feedback from those that have read it that surprised you? Was there things that I never thought that Relatable would connect with a reader in this particular way?
Yeah, I mean, I think any time that someone says that something changed their life, you're like, wait, what? And, not that I didn't think it had the power to do that, but I guess it's just it was just bigger than me. It was bigger than the book. It was kind of this idea that it could change the way that people showed up and the way that people thought about themselves and the way that, people lived their lives. And to me, that is, I'm assuming that's probably the point of many books, but the way I wrote it was just no. I just want to help in this one instance. I just want to help people connect better. But then it became bigger than that. And that's the coolest part of it. So there's still times where I get messages and I was like, wow, why me? I go into that, oh my gosh, it's beyond humbling.
I think the reason why you is because this is authentically who you are. The listeners need to know the first time that I met Rachel, I would say it was like looking in the mirror and saying, wow, I look so much better than I normally do because I look like this. Because we both understand the importance of connection. We both understand how we have to find that common ground on where we can relate together. And we both speak about connecting. And that's what I wanted to talk about was in the messages of when you're speaking to audiences that are trying to absorb your message. Obviously, look, the book becomes kind of like the course book, and then the lectures, if you would, become the messages you deliver in person. What's some of your favorite things that you love to speak about when in person in helping to be that relatability expert?
I think it's showing that I am relatable. And so many people, and I'm not going to call out specific speakers, but I think a lot of speakers and a lot of people who teach or who have messages, they kind of put themselves up on this pedestal. And that's just never been my thing. So some of my favorite parts about speaking and being in person is I tell stories. I always believe that our stories are our power, and our stories are also what give people a glimpse into who we are as human beings versus teachers. And so my favorite part is telling these awesome, self-deprecating at times, most of the time, stories where they kind of get oh, wow, she's gone through this. And there's another side to this. And there's another side to her. And there's another side to human beings. And really just giving them that view of, we're just so multifaceted. And we have such elements of relatability in us that just need to be brought out there with a little bit of a nudge and some confidence.
After this last year aside from all the moving and the nesting and all the stuff that you had to do in getting into your home, which was quite interesting to say the least. Those need to follow. We will provide the show notes of where to follow Rachel in social, because she's really professional when she's doing that stuff. But if you catch her stories on the chaos that's going on in her life, it's actually more entertaining to watch that feed more so than her really important messages.
Yeah.
But over the last year in getting these messages together, I actually want to talk about that social component, because you do a spectacular job of hitting upon certain ideas on how to be relatable in certain circumstances. You'll do them in an Instagram story or a post. One, do you have fun doing them? And two, are you able to get it all done in one take?
Yes and yes. So,
oh, come on.
Listen, here's the deal. I did TV for 10 years. You figure out how to talk in very quick sound bites. And it doesn't mean there's times where I don't flub. And honestly, it's sometimes when I have to do a specific video for someone else, like a brand or a partnership that I'm doing, where all of a sudden they're asking me to say certain things. Then I'm a mess. All of a sudden I'm looking at my take list and I'm on like take 75. But when it's one of my short form videos, I do a lot of Instagram reels where I try to be helpful, and those are pretty quick hitting, and you're talking in just a couple seconds, but I have a blast with those. Those are my favorite.
Listeners need to know that when I have, she's also has another job title, which is called Lou's Instagram Tech Help. I will literally reach out to her in a DM and be like, how the F did you do that? So that's
I got you.
We're giving a little generational differences there, obviously. My inability to be as adept, although my daughters help me out most of the time. He usually just gives up on me. So now she goes, ask Rachel.
This is how we open a PDF. You ever see those commercials? Those are my favorites.
I love it. Okay, so I was bleeding these two books together. I literally was saying, how can we take relatability and Speak Easy to put together? And instead of, one of the takeaways that I got, obviously, is this whole way of knowing how to prepare yourself when you're going to relate to someone and approach them. And all the work that you need to understand and how you need to be is what Speak Easy is all about. In a quick summary, I also liked merging together the relatable component into what scares you, even if it scares you. And I think you push that button a little bit on how important it is to make the connection. And this was something that, as I was going through it, I said, I want to ask this question on the air. Were you ever scared to connect and relate with people? It was because it doesn't seem like you ever would be. I've always wanted to ask. So
I was a anxious extrovert because I did have, when I opened my book with a story about how I had no friends. I was this overweight know-it-all in grammar school. By the time I got to sixth grade, I was out of friendships. I had to switch schools so that I could have a bit of a fresh start. But yeah, I had a lot of anxiety around it, and I had a lot of just misguided energy. And so it definitely was an element. I think if social media existed when I was going through that, I would be an even bigger mess. So I have so much empathy for people who have gone through those elements. It definitely has gotten better as I've gotten older, and high school was kind of it's weird. Some people have issues in high school. I was like, that was when I finally felt like, oh no, I can do this. And things started to shift. But yeah, I've had those moments, and it's like core wounds. So those things, I always like my husband said, he's like, you're so humble, like all the time. I was like, yeah, it's because I was like traumatized as a child. So I will never be mean. Like, I just can't.
It's like one day we're going to see you just fly off the handle, but it'll be worth it.
It's about time.
So gifts that you've received, what has been the biggest gift that you have received in not only being the relatability expert, but from the book, or even the message that you give? What is that key gift that maybe it keeps giving, or maybe it's just a one-off, but I think our listeners would love to know.
You know what? I think one of the coolest things that ever happened was, so I do a lot of interaction in my keynotes, which some people are like, oh God, you're gonna make me talk to people. And other people are like, oh my gosh, I've been dying to talk. Like, please stop talking up there. And so this woman came up to me after one of my keynotes and said, I really don't like interactions, but I really loved that. And I started talking to this woman next to me who was from It was a credit union engagement and from a different credit union. And then I get a message from her months later. And all of a sudden she's telling me they're hanging out together. They're planning family vacations. They are just building this beyond anything in my wildest dreams relationship from that interaction. And to me, that's just a microcosm of what's possible. And so having people actually share those very specific relationships that they've built is everything. It's entirely why I do this.
I love it. Let's do a quick plug section. It always sounds better from you. We've done it in the past, but I know you're a pro. You can do it again. Share with the listeners all the places people can find you, websites, URL, social handles. We'll put it in the show notes, but it gets more engagement when they hear it from you.
Well, this is when they're done buying Speak Easy.
There you go.
I'm Rachel DeAlto everywhere. So every social media handle is Rachel DeAlto, and it's racheldealto.com is for my website.
And not only should you buy Speak Easy, you should also buy Relatable. Everyone go check it out. Relatable, how to connect with anyone, anywhere, even if it scares you. You've just heard from the most amazing author, Rachel DeAlto. First of all, great to see you again.
Good to
Continued
see you,
success. Isn't this fun? We get to connect and talk about the stuff that we do every day, which is kind of a blessing, right?
Pretty cool.
Yeah, one day we're going to get her pissed off. We're going to figure out. That's actually the next time you come on the show. The goal is we're going to try to fucking piss off Rachel DeAlto. It won't happen.
Awesome. Hang a painting too high. See how that works.
I feel for your husband on that front. He's the only one that gets to see all of that, I'm sure. Rachel, such a pleasure to catch up with you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Lou.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.